Today we're going to step back to 1984 and look at a very old VCR made by Canon. Actually, it was made by Panasonic. It was sold by Canon. And I actually was ready to throw this one in the garbage. It came very close to going in the bin. But I figured I'd take a second look and see if I could make any progress. This is an old VCR. This was sold by Canon. It's called the VRHF600, made by Panasonic. This one here had HiFi, nice fluorescent display. It was a 2-speed machine. HiFi audio. Did not have MTS. So would only record mono from TV. There was an external adapter that was available on the back. There's a multiplexed output, and you would have bought an external adapter to decode the stereo TV signal. That gives you an idea of how old this unit is. This is relatively early on in hi-fi video. And like all the early ones, they hit the market before the TV stereo standard was finalized. So they didn't, they'd record stereo, but only if you gave it an external signal through the audio inputs. I have no idea if this thing works. I'm assuming it does not. This is basically the final stop to see whether it will work or not before it gets sent off to recycling. Because I've been getting rid of a lot of the old stuff as I've been picking through stuff in the storage locker. I've been getting rid of this old stuff that has absolutely zero value for anything. But this gives you an idea of what this has got as far as complexity. Looks like it looks like the head's been unsoldered on this. Maybe the head is no good. That's probably why this doesn't work. The head is bad. You see? The head's not soldered down, which would indicate that the head was either removed from this or it's bad. So we'll see. As I say, I don't remember the last time this one was looked at. I think I probably had it given to me and it was like this one. I got it and I never got around to fixing it. I just kind of set it aside. So let's just see whether it even powers up. Okay, it's powered up. I don't see any picture on the screen. Then is it on tuner? Well, I guess first things first, I'm not getting a picture even from the tuner, but let's just see whether the front loading mechanism accepts the tape. Not even detecting the tapes going in. I'm hoping that just doing this a few times will get it to detect that there's actually a tape going into it. Okay, that belt was slipping for one. That's why it was bouncing the tape out. It wasn't loading all the way down, but now it's loaded. Let's just see whether fast forward and rewind work. No. Well, rewind works. There it goes. Okay. So that part works. How about play? It's not going to play anything because the head is not connected, but I don't see anything on the screen either, not snow or anything. I would expect to see some snow, and I don't hear any sound at all on the output. I see it on my meter here, but I don't see any picture. Let's just reconnect the head. That didn't sound good, did it? Let's just reconnect that head and see whether there's anything that's going to show up on the screen. So I reconnected the head. Still got nothing. I was going to toss this thing out. I was ready to send it to recycling. I figured I would give it one last go before it gets pitched. So here goes. Looks like I see audio through the tuner, but there's no video output, no nothing. So no playback. So I don't know where the heck the problem is on this. Let's pull the bottom off this one and see whether something is obvious. It's been so long since I've worked on one of these units. These were a pretty good unit. It's made by Panasonic. Panasonic actually had a better one, 1730, PV 1730, which was similar to this. I have one of those too, and it's broken. And it's one of the ones I would like to at some point get going, because it was a super machine. It had, I think, 6 motors in it. Drum, capstan, reel supply, reel take-up, loading, and front loading. So it had 6 motors in it. Everything direct drive, which was one of the problems with that particular unit. It was all the drive circuits for the different motors all had capacitors in them that all dried up, and the unit would snap tapes. This one's not quite as complex. This one here is conventional belt drive, loading motor. It's got a mode switch here. But we have no video output. To the TV. I don't see any picture. I don't hear any sound. See some interference when I do that. Oh, what's going on here? When I moved that plug, I saw something on the screen. Is it right here? I'll drop this board and take a peek. Get some light on here so I can see what I'm doing. Oh, we got a break in the board here. Watch when I do this. Okay, when I touch the board here, aha! We have a break in the board. Or one of these modules is bad. I wonder if it's just, it's got a plug-in module, the video pack. I wonder if the connections are bad there. Let's take a close look. Aha! Do you see what I see? Let's resolder that. I guess it's a separate module. They call it the video pack. Let's just resolder that one and see whether we get video on this old beast. Because this is a neat old machine. It's one of my favorite mechanisms that Panasonic made was this one. As far as reliability went, this was one of the best. This chassis, one of the best that they made. So let's just resolder this video pack and see whether I can get signal off of this one. That would be kind of an accomplishment. How long have I spent on this? I've been on it, what, 5 minutes? My nose is kind of out of joint today. I had someone contact me about one of my advertising for transferring to digital, and I made an appointment for them to come over. They wanted their DV tape transferred right away. You know, they didn't want it. They didn't want to make 2 trips. They didn't want to. I said, okay. I said, if you come over at 10 o'clock, bring your 1 hour tape with just one single DV tape. I said, bring me a 16 gig USB stick, and we'll transfer the data straight over, and you can have it on a USB stick. It says it's going to take, it'll take about an hour and a half or so, depending on the speed of their stick, because it takes an hour. If it's an hour tape, it takes an hour to play the tape so that it's on the computer, and then have to transfer it over to their medium. 10 o'clock rolls around, I'm waiting for them. 11 o'clock, still no call. 12 o'clock, still no call. No one showing up, no call. Finally, by 3 o'clock, I finally sent them a nasty message saying, don't bother. I'm not doing it for you at any price. You know, you screw me around, tell me you're coming over, and then you don't show, and you don't call, and you don't message me or anything. You know, bloody tire kickers. You know, someone probably just kicking tires to get a price and calling around, and they don't even have the courtesy when they've got an appointment to say they're not coming. And that just pisses me off when people do that. Okay, this unit has uses a VRHF tuner, so we have to select the band, I think, and select our channel, or can we just do it this way? I'm trying to remember how to do this. Oh, there we go. Cool. I can just set the channel number I want to set in my presets. I forget how these ones work. They kind of go in a specific order, I guess. Channel position, what the heck does that do? Oh, okay.
To find out
how many positions does this thing have? This has got 16 positions. I'll show you. This is an oddball tuner, so let's set these up for my channels that I can actually pick up here on my little home cable system. I'll show you what the display shows like on this thing. Now that I've got picture and sound from the tuner, I can work on getting picture and sound from the VTR portion. I was almost ready to give up on this thing too. Channel position. Press the channel position button up here, and it tells you what position that this is. See, there's a button here, channel position, and then the fine tuning and the channel number, the 1 and the 10. And you got a preset switch and your CATV mode. If you notice here, if I press channel position 16, and the next one here, channel position 1. So that one's channel 1. That's good. And the next one is channel 5, and then channel 7, and then channel 9, channel 12. The next one is set for 10, but I don't have anything on 10. So if I put this onto preset, I can set this to like channel 17, which is where the time comes up. And the next one up, well, I can set it to whatever I want. And I guess I can blank them out if I just take it to to the blank mark. It'll probably skip it. It'll probably skip that if I do that. I bet you if I leave it as blank, it will skip it. There we go, and then preset off. Now it should just have the channels that I programmed in. There we go. 4, 5, 7, 9, 12, and 17. Of course, 17's got this on it. Nice, big, beautiful digital clock display. So that means that that portion is working. Let's see whether this thing will play a tape. I bet you the mode switch needs to be cleaned. And, well, it's not tracking very well here. Let's see the tracking. Oh, and it's stopping. Did it? What was it doing? Were we watching? Were we watching? Was the take-up spool not turning? Let's see here. The take-up spool's turning. Oh, it's not going the right speed. I wonder if it's slipping. Let's clean the mode switch on that and see whether that fixes that up. That part's working. The idler works because it's able to fast forward and rewind the tape. That's a good sign. Means that the drive idler is okay. I'm just going to clean the mode switch. So this machine uses a linear mode switch. If we look closely here, we'll see that it's lined up with the little V groove there. Get some light on there so you guys can see it. This is the eject position. You have to have a tape removed so that the alignment of the switch is correct before you remove the switch to clean it. These ones here are pretty simple to clean. Just remove the screw that holds it in place, and the screw does provide a connection to ground, incidentally. So they will not work if you don't have the screw in, because this screw grounds this terminal to the chassis. So we'll remove the screw, remove the switch, just unclip it. And now we can pop the switch apart. These ones were really easy to clean. Actually, you don't even have to do that. We can just spray contact cleaner in here. But these ones here actually can open up. So let's open this switch up. There's clips on the back and on both sides. So if we pop out the clips, we should be able to open this switch up. Get myself some slack here. And try not to break the tabs while you're at it. These are probably pretty fragile now because of the age of this thing. I'm almost tempted to not pop this thing apart, but let's do it. I hear so many quiet cars around my neighborhood now. There's all these electric cars, and I'm always hearing cars creeping up and down the road, not making any noise. Like that one that we hear right now. But that one is probably the wife arriving home. Okay, there's the switch apart. And as you can see, it's pretty yummy in there. So we're gonna clean these contacts up on this unit and clean up the switch contacts here, because that is yeah, pretty disgusting. But then again, this machine is how many years old? And it's been sitting for a long time without being touched. So let's get some deoxit. So here's the switch. We can, yeah, this one's just slightly dirty. I don't even have any cleaner on there yet. Oh man. Yeah, just a little bit dirty. We'll put some cleaner in here and give it a good scrape with the applicator tip. Break some of that corrosion off, oxidation. So I'll clean up the switch contacts, and I'll do the same for the actual switch itself. Put some deoxit on the contacts here, and we'll wipe it off with a dirty Q-tip, because that's what we do here. We use dirty Q-tips to clean stuff. But that's okay, because I used a clean portion of that dirty Q-tip. Put some more directly on here. And then we'll wipe it with the clean side. Get some more oxidation off. And then I'll put some on here, just leave it. Okay, so we got a fair bit of dirt off of this thing, a lot of corrosion in this one. So now we'll put some fresh deoxit, and I'm going to leave this on here because it will lubricate and it'll keep the oxygen away, which is what you want to do. You want to keep the oxygen. Now this is a silver contact. I don't know if it's silver plated or actual solid silver. It's probably solid silver, I'm thinking, because plating would wear off, right? But the problem with silver is a very good conductor of electricity and heat and everything else, but it does tarnish, it does oxidate after a while, and especially if it's not being used. And that's the big problem, is these devices, when they sat around all these years without being used, they tended to get gummed up like everything else. Okay, that goes in there like that, and then the cover snaps on to hold everything together. And it snaps together just like that. That inner cover there is to keep dirt and debris out of the switch. So now we can take the switch, run the wires back through their little clip here, and mount the switch again. Now remember, the mechanism hasn't moved, so it'll still be in that position where the switch is lining up with that notch. And there we go, right there. We line the switch up so that our alignment mark is right on the money, and then reinstall that screw. Snug it down. Now the machine's ready to test once again. Let's see whether it performs any better this time or whether it still shuts off. I get a sneaky suspicion it was shutting off because it wasn't completing the loading cycle properly. And I know it's going to need some belts. The loading belt for the front loading mechanism, for example, is pretty sloppy, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Power on. That might just need to be cleaned. Get that off of that channel. Yeah, just give it a bit of a hand there. It slips a bit, but we can change that out pretty simple. I just want to see whether the unit itself actually works, and if I can make the unit play properly, then we're winning the battle. Tape's not moving very well, is it? Tape is slipping pretty good. What's going wrong now? Why is the tape slipping? Let's check this out. Okay, I don't know how easy this is to see, but there's a guide here that's a bit... See how slow that guide is at returning? We're going to have to lubricate that one. That one's dried up. Also, the back tension arm over here is slow. So obviously the lubricant on those has dried up. We'll just lubricate those pins a bit. I'm thinking maybe this is not clearing out of the way for the pinch roller to fully engage. I can see the pinch roller moving, but it's not grabbing the tape properly. So let's lubricate this other loading pin here that's out of whack. I think maybe it's easier if I pull the whole loading mechanism out, and that way we can address the problem with the belt while we're at it. So let me pull the mechanism out on this one. We'll shut it off, and I'm trying to remember how to do this. There's a couple screws that hold it in place, I'm sure, and then this whole carriage assembly will just lift out. Gee, it's been so long since I've worked on one of these, I've almost forgotten how to do it. I haven't seen one of these machines probably in 30 years or more, because these machines, people got rid of these things. They didn't hang on to them. One of the downsides to one of these was it only had a 16 channel tuner. In the days of 50 channels of analog cable, being only able to preset 16 of them, some of them were only 14 channels, but that gave a lot of people a big incentive to scrap these machines early. That's how I got this machine, actually, is somebody scrapped this machine because it only could tune in 16 channels. And as I say, back in the days when you had all these analog channels, having to pick which 16 channels you wanted to record from, that was just too much for some people, and they scrapped these machines in record numbers. That being said, this was probably one of the most reliable, and other people I'm sure are going to agree with me on this. This was probably one of the most reliable VCR mechanisms that Panasonic ever made, and this was made by Panasonic. And perhaps I should add, most reliable from any manufacturer. I think if we look at some of the prior footage that I shot the other day when I first kind of peeked at this but didn't tear into it, the video head wasn't soldered in place. I think it's because I pulled the head off this to test it on another machine that had a bad rotary transformer, a PV4760, which I scrapped because the rotary transformer was bad on it. But I pulled the head thinking it was the head that was bad on that other one first, and it turned out that it wasn't the head, it was actually the rotary transformer. So I put the head back on this one, but I didn't solder it in place. A couple red screws. Release these ground wires, get them out of the way. Unplug that's the headphone plug. It has a headphone plug on the front, but it's not stereo. It's only mono, see? Just the two wires. Unless the ground is separate, I think it's just mono. Yeah, it's just mono headphones. Okay, what else holds this basket in place on this one? This basket case of a VCR. It should just lift out. There we go. There we go. Just like that. Unplug this plug over here. Now we can put this aside. I'm going to change a belt on that. I think I probably have something around here that will be sufficient for that. Now we've got the mechanism open. This is where I think our problem might be. You see how slow that is at returning? So if we can clean up this bearing here, this pivot, same with this one over here. That's going to be over there, I believe. That pivot there is, I think, where it's sticking. Let's deal with this one first. Now, many of you will think this is Japanese, it's metric, it must be a 7mm, right? No, it's not. 7mm is too big. And guess what? 6mm is too small. It's actually a 7/32, because a 1/4 inch is too big. 7/32. We'll remove that nut, and now we can lift this gummed up. Spring is still connected here. Just remove that, and we're going to clean this up and lubricate it with some oil, and then put it back together and do the same for the other side. And just to, I threw that Q-tip away. I was going to use that dirty Q-tip just to piss off people that get annoyed when I do it. So I figured I'll have some fun with the trolls. Ever notice that people that are trolls don't like being called trolls? And they'll say, I'm not a troll. You know how you can tell a troll? When he says, I'm not a troll. That's how you can tell a troll. I had some guy bitching about my soldering. He seemed to think that he could solder better than me. Nobody can solder better than me. Trust me on that one. I think I've proven that when I changed that 100-pin flat pack on that timing controller board. Cut all the pins off. I think that was a video the guy was upset with too. He was most upset with me because I used a razor blade to cut the pins off and change it out, and I didn't use a hot air station. And I was very unprofessional. And of course I'm unprofessional. I don't do this for a living anymore. I'm doing this on my own sheet. And I don't really care what anybody thinks. I'm showing people how to do this without using a $2 or $3 or $4 or $500, whatever the air stations cost these days, without using an expensive air station. I'm showing people, I'm demonstrating how you can do this work using basic tools, a soldering iron, X-Acto knife, a scalpel, whatever you've got handy, how you can do this work without investing. Yes, I'm fully aware that I could invest in an air station if I wanted to. I could afford it. I could afford anything, right? But the point is, why? I don't do this for a living. I haven't done this for a living for a long time. Just to show you guys how to go about servicing it. But some people take it the wrong way and they get all bent out of shape, and then they always say the same thing: I'm unsubscribing and I'm never watching another video. And my response to them all is the same: don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. Okay, we'll throw a bit of oil on this one. That'll work. Just good old 3-in-1 20 weight non-detergent electric motor oil will be more than good enough for this. Let's get the nut back on. This is a critical height adjustment, so we'll have to take a look at the tape once we get it playing and make sure that it's not chewing the top edge or the bottom edge of the tape, and adjust accordingly. But now that does what it's supposed to do. Now the other couple ones that I'm wondering about, well, that's okay. That one feels fine. There's lots of spring there. And this one over here, I'm going to run the mechanism through its paces by hand. Looks like I've already fixed this. You see, that probably what happened when I got this thing given to me was the you can see I've glued the felt pad back on with epoxy, and that's how I used to do it always in the shop. Either crazy glue or epoxy. I forget what I used on this. Looks like it might be epoxy. But I used to glue a lot of these, and the idler tire is in good shape, looks like, so I don't have to worry about that one. We'll clean the lower drum on this unit while I'm at it, using a clean side of a Q-tip, because I'm too cheap to throw it out and buy another one apparently. Which I am, incidentally. Keeping the heads away from what I'm working on here as I clean the lower drum, because this thing's been sitting around for a while, so it would not surprise me if it was a bit sticky just from disuse. So we'll clean all the transport, clean everything that the tape touches. Okay, we'll deal with this one this time. So I'll pull off the clip on this side over here. Release the spring and lift off the stuck post. We'll clean up the lubricant on this side and re-lube it. Fresh Q-tip. Should have used the other dirty one for that. Okay, that's good. We'll put the back tension back on. Pop that into the hole here. Like that. And put the spring back on. Where it goes over here. Just like that. Now, that is... Okay, let's manually turn the mechanism through the loading cycle and see how it looks. Supposed to. So the brakes come off, and the guide should start to move momentarily as I spin the loading pulley. There's no resistance whatsoever, so the mechanism itself is not gummed. Okay, that should be fully engaged now. There it goes. It's fully engaged. This should drop all the way back. I guess it is in place now. It's got tension on it. And there is not a heck of a lot of tension on the pinch roller. It should be tighter than that, I think. There's a lot of slippage here. That's why the tape is slipping. So we have to figure out why there's not enough torque on the pinch roller. The spring is certainly, the spring over here is certainly pulling it, like it's the mechanism is over far enough. As you can see, if I start the unload position, you'll see the spring now. If I go back into the loaded mode, it is pulling the spring, so there is tension pulling on the pinch roller, but there doesn't appear to be a lot of tension here. It could be the pinch roller is just worn out. Because not a lot of tension. You see, I can turn this thing freely. And that means the tape's probably going to slip, like it has been. I just think it's the pinch roller it's so slippery. The rubber is so hard. I think I'm going to have to try to soften that up a bit. We'll just unload the mechanism, and I'll pull the pinch roller off, and we'll give it a shot of some rubbery new. Try and soften that rubber up a bit, because I think that's our fault on here now, is the pinch roller is just so shiny that it's not grabbing the tape, because there certainly is enough tension. It should be grabbing the tape. So we'll unload the mechanism. You'll see that as it unloads, everything else moves back into place. This little guide pin here will retract back like that, like it's supposed to. So everything now is free. Nothing's sticking anymore, except for the pinch roller itself is really slippery. So let's just pop this off, hopefully without breaking it. And we'll give the pinch roller some rubber renew and see whether I can get that sheen off of it, so that it at least will grip the tape a little better. We'll throw some sandpaper on it too and rough up the surface a bit. So we'll use some of this MG Chemicals rubber renew, which is stuff that's really not very good for you apparently. It's a toxin. It's flammable. Smells like oil of wintergreen. But you know what? It actually works pretty good at softening up rubber, especially when the rubber is really, really hard, like it is, and slippery. The stuff actually works pretty good. Some are going to criticize me and say you should never use that on pinch rollers. Well, too bad. I'm using it on a pinch roller, because I don't have a heck of a lot of options. I'm certainly not going to send the roller off to Terry's Rubber Rollers or whoever and have them refurbish the pinch roller. That's an option, but it's an expensive option. And it costs more to get the rubber roller replaced or rebuilt than the unit itself is worth. So we'll try this option of scrubbing away the surface oxidation and see if we can get the rubber below it a little more pliable. The roller hasn't disintegrated. It's probably headed down that road of disintegrating, but at this point it hasn't. So as you can see, all the black that's coming off here, it is taking the oxidation off the end of the rubber here, the edge of the rubber. And it's getting me stoned while I do it. Oh, stuff's not that bad, but it is. It's got xylene in it. I remember when I was young, working at the TV station, and I remember the program director came out. I was a intern, which means I wasn't being paid. Some would call us volunteers, but all in the name of trying to get a job in broadcast. The stuff that we went through. And I remember the production truck. They wanted to revarnish all of the cubbies that the cables and tripods and stuff lived in, and there was myself and another guy, and they gave us some flectovarethane varnish or whatever the stuff was to paint the inside of these cabinets. This is at like a closed motorhome, right? And I tell you, the two of us came out of that place. There was no ventilation. The windows were all closed and stuff. We're in there varnishing away these wooden cabinets, right? And the two of us came out of there so bloody high from the fumes. It was, we come out of there, we were just laughing. We were full of giggles. I mean, we were just absolutely stoned from the fumes that this lacquer gave off. The solvent that was in it was really powerful stuff. And I mean, I ended up with a headache, but the other fella, he was in there, he was sicker than a dog when he came out. Like, we left there, and I remember him sitting in the coffee room, and then he made a mad dash for the men's room, and he just made it in time before he said hello to his lunch. Oh man, that stuff was just absolutely brutal. The stench from that stuff. This stuff's not so bad. This smells like oil of wintergreen, but again, you certainly will. It's not good for you, I'm sure, to sit and sniff the stuff. Of course, I'm going to clean this off with isopropyl before putting it back in the machine. Just so, because this stuff here, it's dry, right? But the ingredients in it will melt plastic, so you don't want this to get in contact with the tape. But this is already feeling better. It's feeling grippier now than it was a few minutes ago. So now we'll just clean it again and put it back in the unit and see whether we get any different performance. wonder if any of the other old VHS machines I've got might have a pinch roller that is the same size as this. I'm sure any of the older Panasonics will, but I don't have any old Panasonics of this vintage. I've got an old Hitachi of the same vintage as this, or relatively close. I wonder if it's the same size. All depends on, it's the inside bearing, right? The inside diameter is what really is the critical one. So let's put the pinch roller back on. Goes on there, and the top goes on. There's a little cutaway on this. It faces towards the direction of where the tape is, I guess. Alright, it spins nicely. The next thing, I guess we'll look for a belt for the front loading mechanism and see whether I can get that belt to stop slipping. Okay, front loading mechanism plugs back in. It just sits in place like that. And the two red screws. Reattach it. We can test it without putting the front panel on. Okay, let's power this thing up and see whether it does anything more than it did before. In other words, does it play? Goes in. Will it load? You know what? Our tape tension's way too high. Our back tension's way, way, way too high. This brake isn't coming off on this one. Okay, we'll just lift this basket out. Lift out the basket case. And kind of just put it out of the way. Okay, let's gonna load this up manually again, and we'll watch the back tension. I think it's just out of position, because that's supposed to go all the way back like that, and this band is way too tight. It's also, there we go, a little looser here. See what I mean? It's like the back tension band is too short. It might be because the epoxy that was put on here is making this thing a little tighter than it was originally. So, although it worked after it was done. But what I may have to do is just enlarge this hole just a little bit, so that I can create some more slack. What did I just drop? Something just fell out of something. I just heard something fall. Oh, screw fell out of the front loading mechanism. Yeah, that'll do it. I'm going to try and just open this up a bit. Give myself some more room to run that screw back a bit further so that I can create a little bit less tension. I'll just enlarge the hole a bit with my soldering iron and create a big stink. That's a little better. One thing I will say about these old beasts is that unlike Panasonic, they actually used a
Easy. I just work.
conventional transformer. Whereas all the Panasonic machines, all the Panasonic made or branded machines, they use a switch mode power supply. And yet they put a regular transformer in for the machines that they made for other companies. And of course, this is a hell of a lot more reliable than a switch mode power supply. Okay, just backed off that tension a bit, and we got a picture. Cool. Okay, it's not perfect, but
JVC 95 series display.
it's
or something ordinary, like watching TV. But guess what? This incredible large screen display can make something even as simple as watching television.
I'm just seeing how tight the tape is. The tape is really tight still.
Program guide.
More. What's on TV? There's also a hyperscan feature.
It allows you to channel surf at 2 different speeds. The regular version of 1 channel every second, with a high-speed version of 5 channels every second. There's also an AV compulate that allows your entire JVC audio-visual system to turn on simply by putting a tape into the VCR.
Well, that's playing. I'm going to try another tape on this because this is a really, really, really short, like a. These tapes tended to have tension errors. They were so short. Let's try a regular tape on this thing and just see if it plays any better. It's playing in HiFi. Excellent. And it's playing at the right speed. Even better. Probably by tape tension. It may be that it just has to run for a bit to free up some of the. I mean, this has been sitting so long. I'm sure that drum is probably pretty pitted and oxidated, and it will polish itself up a bit with the tape playing. But hey, it's playing. Look at that. It's playing perfect. Absolutely perfect. And it's playing in HiFi. Let's rewind this tape. I'm going to let this tape play from the beginning. So let me just hit stop and rewind. We'll rewind the tape back to the beginning. Rewinding at a good speed too. As you can see, no problem there. This machine fully unloads to rewind the tape, unlike the more modern machines which kept everything loaded. I'll let this tape rewind. I'm going to let it play. I'm going to play this tape through a few times and just watch what happens, but it looks like it's working. Probably about as good as could be expected for a machine of this vintage, because this machine certainly isn't modern, that's for sure. So for use in the United States, one federal court has held that recording copyrighted TV programs is infringement, and such programs should not be recorded. But then for the rest of the world, we got this warning. It said, for use in other countries, unauthorized recording of copyrighted television programs, films, videotapes, and other material may infringe the rights of copyright owners and be contrary to copyright laws. But it did not say should not be recorded. So I'm fully expecting to get about 100,000 thumbs up on this one, but I know my fan out there, Johnny Sheethead, will give me a thumbs down, and he'll report me to YouTube, and he'll report me to Google, and he'll report me to my ISP, and he'll even probably write a letter to Santa Claus, because I'm sure he believes in him, and say how he's so upset with me because I've posted yet another video. And all I can say is, here's Johnny, get a life, go away. Unsubscribe, turn off the bell and turn off the subscribe button and get the fuck off my channel. So as you guys can see, this is rewinding quite nicely. No slippage of that idler, which was really, was not expecting that. Let's see, where's fast forward on this one? Fast forward is here. See? Look at that. Lots of torque. I was not expecting that to have to not have to change the idler, and I didn't even change the belt. I just cleaned the loading belt. It was slipping. I just cleaned it. Now it's working fine. So I put no parts into this thing. Fixed up the mechanism that was a bit gummed up, and that video board that was the solder was all cracked on and was giving me no video. And I was ready to chuck this machine because I looked at it the other day and did like a preliminary on it, and it was like, oh God, what's wrong with this thing? It's got no video. But before tossing it, I figured I'll pull it apart and just see whether it's something relatively minor, and as you guys found out, it was relatively minor. Just a bunch of solder connections had broken by themselves, which is quite amazing considering that this machine has been sitting for 20 years, and it did work when I put it away, and it hasn't been touched. I think you guys saw it when I was going through my storage unit where my 3/4 inch stuff is, and somebody spotted it there and said I should service it. And now I have, and now it's working. And here's the playback. And now I'm going to let this thing play for a while and just make sure that it stays playing. But I think that we'll be putting this one back together and calling this one a success. So as the VCR goes back together, let's look at some of the controls on here. Okay, your headphone level, your audio or your meter selection, either off, or you can display your audio level, or you can display the HiFi tracking. Cool, huh? Look at that, and the picture of this thing is actually very, very good. Also has slow tracking and a picture control for soft or sharp picture. It should be cleaned, but that's looking a bit better now. I'll show you what it does. And of course, normal and clock setting, set clock, normal, and program. And your on and off, and your day and your hour and minute, timer, record on and off, microphone input left and right. Over here on the right side, you've got your input, tuner input, line input, and multiplex filter in, and then there's a switch up here for simulcast. What that's for is if you're recording from the tuner and of the day, if the music was broadcast on an FM radio station, you could switch it to simulcast, and that would be, you'd need your MPX filter if you were recording from radio, for example. So if you're recording from radio, if you're going to use this as an audio recorder, because many people did, you'd select MPX filter on if you're recording from FM, because a lot of people use these things as audio recorders, and as an audio recorder they did a very good job because you could record without an input on it. Simulcast switch off so it records the tuner audio. If we look at the picture on the TV, so here's the sharpness control, what it does. See? And if I press pause, frame advance, this is where the slow tracking control will adjust the tracking. Now, on the remote control, which I don't have one handy, there would have been a slow button. I almost forgot one thing that this does not have. This does not have a stereo TV tuner in it. It only records in mono. That's why the simulcast switch was there. It does not contain an MTS tuner, as is evident from the multiplexed out jack on the back. So we look on the back here, you'll see one marked TV MPX out. That was for an external decoder for the MPX sounds, because this machine would have been made prior to TV stereo being rolled out. So the only way to get stereo sound was to record a simulcast, which is what a lot of TV stations did back in the day. If they were broadcasting a concert, for example, they would broadcast the sound on a local FM station, and you could use the line input and select simulcast mode, and it would record the audio going in through the line input, but the picture from the tuner. And then later models featured the MTS decoder built in. But this gives you an idea of the age of this unit. Back to playing back the tape. And there's the tape playing back again, playing perfect in stereo, of course, because it was recorded in stereo. My sharpness control is working. And tracking and everything is looking good on this machine. All I gotta do now is to put the top cover on it. It's been playing now for a while, as you can see. The tape's been playing now for probably about 30 minutes or so. Everything's looking good. Picture is as expected. I'm going to date this thing, I think probably around 1984. I'm guessing one of the cool things about this machine, unlike a lot of them, was it has a window on the top. So you can see the tape inside. But I'm guessing 1984 was probably when this machine would have been made. Because by 1986, we had MTS tuners built in. Alright, this one's all back together now. As you can see, it's working perfect. Got a great picture. Nothing wrong with that. All functions are working. I didn't do a recording on it. There's no real point in doing a recording. It's if it's able to play back a tape, it should also be able to record. And besides, I won't be doing any recording on VHS. This one looks like it's got 3 speeds.
You can afford. Select
it's got all 3 speeds.
You save.
Turn off the sound here. This one's got 3 speeds. SP, LP, and EP. And it'll record on all 3 speeds. There's a button on the front here that changes it. There's our speed selector here. SP, LP, EP. Audio select, you can listen to stereo, left, right, or the normal audio track. Audio level control.
For $20.
I got these 3 suitcases for less than $40.
With dual color
Shipping is always free.
vacuum fluorescent display. Or you can set it to auto level or manual level. And that's probably about it. Set the clock. In this mode I would set the day, Saturday, hour. Really easy to set this one. So it's now 12 a.m. 12:37. Go backwards and forwards. There you go. And then back to normal. To program, it's 4 program timers. Set it to record four different programs. And once you've set the timer, just flick the switch to timer record and it'll come on and record. Real simple machine to operate, much more simple than a lot of the later machines which required you to do it from the remote control. I always like these ones that you just set at the machine itself. Yeah, they were a pain if it was below your TV and you had to get on your hands and knees to do it, but typically if it was something like this, you'd have it sitting up on a shelf, or back in the day when this was still, when this was new, a lot of people still had the old console TV, so this would sit on top of the TV, easy to access to set it up. Anyway, to say, looking good. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll just rewind this tape here, make sure everything's still working on here. There we go. As you can see, nice fast rewind. Idler's in good shape, belts are in good shape. This one's fixed. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.